Well, we're down at the Alamosa Air Show once again, the San Luis Valley Fly-In, and I found a couple of spy pilots here that are just hanging around. Fellas, why don't you introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about what you flew?
Well, go ahead, George.
Okay. I'm George Sewell, and I flew, way long time ago, I flew B-47s as a navigator bombardier. Then after I went through pilot training, I flew F-102s, and I flew them all over the United States, in Europe, and in Southeast Asia. And I flew them 2 years in Vietnam. And then I met Pat Halloran one time on Okinawa. I got an invitation to do an interview for the SR-71 program. And as they say, the rest of it's history after that. At the time, Pat was the squadron commander, and I stayed in the program until he became the wing commander. And I worked for him in several different capacities, primarily as the chief of safety during that time period. And incidentally, I think I always thought of it as reconnaissance.
Yeah, I know that's just, you know, when you're announcer talk, you try to make it sexy, right?
Yeah. We don't use spy pilot.
That's right.
Okay, Pat, you can tell me correctly now.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm Pat Halloran. I got a lot of experience in the reconnaissance business, but I started out as a fighter pilot in the Air Force, and I flew fighters for about 7 years, including 100 combat missions during the Korean War. And then I got into the U-2 when it was first built. I was in the initial cadre of pilots for the Air Force. There were two programs, CIA and the Air Force, and I was on the Air Force side. And I flew it for almost 9 years, all over the world. Had a wonderful time flying that airplane, and then I was picked to go to the opening up of the SR-71 program, which was kind of a natural follow-on. There were 9 of us that left the U-2 program and went up to Beale Air Force Base to check out the SR-71, and again we were the first crew force to fly the airplane. So I was in and out of that program for a total of 9 years, wound up as a wing commander. And from that point on, I did a whole bunch of staff jobs, which goes with the territory. And retired out of the Pentagon after 34 years of service.
And now I'm talking about the two recon planes, and the U-2. It's a slow flyer, high flyer. Oh man, the SR-71. I mean, you're practically a spaceman in that. And kind of a difference between the planes, isn't there?
Well, yeah, big difference. Speed and altitude. You know, I thought the U-2 was pretty high. We're at 72,000 feet. Nobody else was up there. But then when I got in the SR in my first flight, and I went right through 72,000 feet like it wasn't there. So I thought, well, this is new territory, and of course new speeds, because I'd flown supersonic before, but just marginal. So when you start seeing Mach 1, Mach 2, and Mach 3 go by the needle, you know you've moved into a whole new environment.
All right, and the 47. I mean, I used to build the models. I love the airplane.
Sure. You mean anything particular about it? It's our first truly operational jet bomber. We had a couple from it, the B-45, but we really weren't able to bring a true mission to the B-47. B-47 had some of the same problems that Pat was telling you about earlier with Coffin's Corner. You could get the B-47 up to the point where you were sitting with a high-speed buffet or a slow-speed stall, right on the edge of it. And with the B-47, that happened in the lower 40,000-foot range. And it had a lot of things like the U-2 in that it was a very clean airplane. So when you got half the fuel burn off on an airplane, it just wanted to go. And we flew B-47s, I did, before we really had operational commercial airplanes. So as we flew around the United States, we were the sole large airplane that was up there, you know. And getting we did not fly across directly on airways. We flew point to point all over the United States, and that was kind of fun. But the airplane was, again, like the U-2, was very sensitive in some ways, and incidentally had the same bicycle landing gear, same kind of bicycle landing gear.
Yep.
I remember early in training, when our co-pilot was learning to land the airplane, he landed with the front truck down first, and that is really exciting because the front truck hits, and that old strut will bounce the nose up, and then the aft truck hits, and from that point on, you're porpoising down the runway. And we were all glad to get off that airplane that night.
Well, I bet if we had more time, we could get a lot of great stories from you guys. But I appreciate it and enjoyed having you down at the Valley. You know, they do some great things down here. This is a great little air show.
Yeah,
so.
the first time I've been there, Bob. I'm really impressed. Nice.
Yep. Well, you'll enjoy it tomorrow watching a couple guys in prop planes flying around at 10,000 DA. So
that's good.
It'll be fun. Thanks.
Thanks,
Okay,
Bob.
Bob.